The fate of the Mary Celeste after its discovery was just as tragic. The ship was cursed in the eyes of sailors. No one wanted to sail on a ghost ship. It was sold from owner to owner, bringing bad luck and financial ruin to everyone who touched it. In 1885, its final captain intentionally ran the ship aground off the coast of Haiti in an insurance fraud scheme, destroying the physical vessel forever. Today, the waters of the Atlantic Ocean remain silent. 115 years have passed, and not a single body, piece of clothing, or remnant of the lifeboat has ever been found. The story of the 7 sailors, the captain, his wife, and his little daughter, remains trapped in the shadows of history. The Mary Celeste will forever be known as the ultimate ghost ship, history's greatest unsolved nautical mystery. Imagine stepping onto a massive ship in the middle of the ocean. The sails are full, breakfast is still warm on the table, and a captain's logbook sits open on the desk. Everything is perfectly in place, except for one terrifying detail. Every single human being on board has completely vanished into thin air. This is not a horror movie. In December 1872, the British merchant ship Des Gratia discovered this exact nightmare, drifting aimlessly in the cold Atlantic waters. Its name was the Mary Celeste. The captain of the Des Gratia ordered a small crew to board the drifting vessel. As the sailors stepped onto the wooden deck of the Mary Celeste, an eerie silence filled the air. The ship was completely deserted, but it wasn't destroyed. The sails were poorly set, and some rigging was damaged, but the ship itself was entirely seaworthy. There was water between the decks, but nothing that would cause a ship to sink. Entering the captain's cabin, the search party found a scene, frozen in time. The captain's personal logbook was open on his desk, with the last entry dated 10 days prior. Everything was in its proper place. Personal belongings, valuable clothing, and even the crew's pipes were left behind. More baffling was the galley. Provisions of food and water for 6 months were completely untouched. Breakfast plates seemed recently abandoned. The cargo hold held another piece of the puzzle. The Mary Celeste was transporting 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. Upon inspection, the cargo was found to be securely stowed and in good condition. However, when the barrels were later counted in port, 9 barrels were completely empty. There were no signs of a fire, no scorch marks, and no smell of smoke anywhere on the ship. As the investigation deepened, the most critical clue was discovered missing. The ship's single lifeboat was gone. It appeared to have been intentionally launched, rather than torn away by a storm. The ship's navigation instruments, including the chronometer and sextant, were nowhere to be found. The main ship's register was also missing. It became clear that the crew had abandoned the ship in a desperate hurry. Who were the people who vanished into the ocean? The Mary Celeste was commanded by Captain Benjamin Briggs, a deeply religious and experienced seaman. On this voyage, he wasn't alone. He had brought along his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia. Along with them were 7 disciplined and highly capable crew members. These were not men who would panic easily or abandon a perfectly safe ship without a massive reason. The first major theory that emerged was piracy. In the late 19th century, pirates still operated in parts of the Atlantic. Many believed that sea bandits boarded the Mary Celeste, slaughtered the family and the crew, and threw their bodies into the ocean. But this theory quickly fell apart. The valuable cargo was untouched, and the captain's money and family valuables were still safely inside the cabin. Pirates would never leave wealth behind. As the story spread, a dark cloud of suspicion fell upon the crew of the Dei Gratia, the very men who found the ship. Under maritime law, anyone who rescues a ghost ship is entitled to a massive financial reward, known as salvage rights. Investigators wondered if the crew of the Dei Gratia had murdered Captain Briggs and his family to claim the money. However, an intense trial found absolutely no evidence of foul play or violence. With human theories failing, people turned to the supernatural and the terrifying legends of the deep ocean. Stories spread about a giant sea monster, a kraken, rising from the dark Atlantic waters, wrapping its massive tentacles around the ship, plucking the terrified crew members, one by one, from the deck. While popular in fiction, scientists and sailors knew a monster wouldn't leave the ship's structure completely undamaged. Another chilling supernatural theory involved a sudden, violent madness. Some suggested that the crew fell victim to a mass hallucination or a contagious illness that drove them insane. Believers of this theory claimed that the sailors, gripped by unexplainable terror, threw themselves into the freezing ocean waters. But the orderly state of the cabins and the open logbook contradicted any theory of violent chaos or sudden madness. The most logical scientific theory involves the mysterious 9 empty barrels of industrial alcohol. Experts believe that these barrels leaked, releasing highly toxic and explosive fumes into the enclosed cargo hold. Fearing a massive, imminent explosion that would blow the ship apart, Captain Briggs likely ordered everyone into the lifeboat immediately, planning to stay at a safe distance until the fumes cleared. If they left in a lifeboat, why didn't they survive? Investigators believe the lifeboat was tied to the Mary Celeste by a long tow line. As they waited in the ocean, a sudden, violent storm or a massive wave may have struck the area. In the panic, the rope connecting the small lifeboat to the massive ship broke. Unable to row against the powerful Atlantic currents, the small boat was swept away, leaving the crew to perish at sea. Another scientific explanation points to a terrifying natural phenomenon known as a sea waterspout. A waterspout is a swirling vortex of wind and water, similar to an ocean tornado. If a waterspout hit the Mary Celeste, it would explain the water found between the decks and the damaged rigging. The sudden drop in pressure and roaring sound might have convinced Captain Briggs that the ship was sinking, triggering an emergency evacuation.